So let's get started. I mean, you've been doing this for over 30 years, and not everybody has this fire, this motivation to become an entrepreneur. So what was that fire for you?
Well, it's interesting. You know, I think there's 31.5 million small businesses in this country, right? And those are businesses under 125 million. Most businesses are started by someone who's good at something, and they don't want to work for somebody else, so they go start their own business. That's where it starts, and usually that's where the struggle begins, because building a business isn't just about what you do. It's about who you do it with and how you do it. My first business, I just acquired 130 businesses. I had no idea what I was doing. It was catastrophic, but it was exciting. And I knew that's what I wanted. I wanted the excitement. And what I've learned in my career is that building a great business and doing great things is fun. It's interesting. It's financial rewarding. But really, just like when you're jumping out of an airplane, to have that thrill of parachuting down and doing all the crazy stuff you do, I feel that way about business. And I moved from being a business owner, kind of a founder, to an entrepreneur. That's a technical move. And then I had to move to CEO because I had a public company. That's another technical move. Those are three different people, right? And I fell in love with it.
And by the way, fun fact, he was one of the youngest people to ever ring the bell at the American Stock Exchange. So I got to say that probably gives you the thrill of want to keep doing what you were doing.
Oh my God, dude, it was a dream. It was a dream. It'd be like if you were a little kid looking up in the air, planes flying over, thinking one day I want to jump out. Which, I mean, you'd have to be crazy to think that, which I know you are. But to me, it's like I used to watch movies or read books about being on Wall Street and 90-story building. I was in a little tiny town. The tallest building we had there was like 4 stories, right? Dreaming of doing something big, but being such a poor student, hated reading, hated math, barely got out of school. I only passed my grades so I could do athletics because my dad told me if I got a C or below, I couldn't do my athletics. So I just always got C's, right? And I hated school. And to go from that and being told I should just settle and getting a good job, being a cop or whatever, my grandpa was a cop, it's all I ever wanted to do growing up, to actually at 29 years old, ringing the opening bell, youngest person to do it, raising $38 million with the most prestigious private equity groups on the planet.
What was this company for us? Sorry, that
my first company
was the first company that you rang the bell on.
It was called Sonus, Sonus.
Amazing. What did that company do?
We were the first on the planet consolidator of hearing clinics.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, about 140 of them in 3 years.
Amazing.
So you've done, as we mentioned, multiple exits, one of them $150 million, and now you're helping others to follow that footsteps. You're building that blueprint. But before we even get into those steps, I like what you talk about the mindset. How do you reframe the way that you look at it? Because you didn't come from greatness. You had to build that. And there was one thing in there that clicked, and that was the way that you started thinking. So what is the one thing that you changed in your mind to say, I can do this?
Oh, it was failure. It was being Superman and doing everything and ringing the bell and buying businesses and raising capital and breaking through every glass ceiling and feeling like I can do anything I put my mind to. And then walking in a boardroom at the peak of my career in May of 2001, where I had just pulled off the biggest deal of my life. We were going global. I mean, I was it. I had everyone around the world throwing money at us. Not even to invest, just to give to me to bring them into the country to sell product. Free money. And I did the biggest deal of my life, and I flew home. My board said, "That's great, unbelievable. You're the best entrepreneur. Fly in, let's have a meeting." I flew in, and they said, "You're so amazing. But you're not predictable. And now that you've raised this money and it has debt in front of our preferred equity, it triggers a provision in our agreement. We're selling your company." Wow. It was a 15-minute conversation. And I said, "We're not selling my company." And they said, "Yeah, that all you guys say that. So technically you're fired. We're moving you to chairman." And the new guy's coming in, walked in, Dan Dickhead Cole came in. Guy had never done anything in his life other than be a professional. All he is a professional severance operator. Mm-hmm. Like, guy, I haven't seen anything he's ever touched that did anything good. And they paid him a bounty to sell my company as fast as they could. And I left and tried to buy it back. And unfortunately, September 11th happened. So it wasn't really a good time to try to do that. They sold the business in February 2002. I resigned as chairman, and that was how that ended. It was unfortunate, but I do have to say, in entire transparency, that was the moment that caused me to think about having a mind shift. But for the first year and a half, my mind shift was they were all assholes, and I was pissed at them. But looking back on it, because all those guys, other than Dan, he was a dumbass, all those other guys, the investors that trusted me, the private equity guys that worked with me, if I was them being the person I am today, and I had invested $28 million with the guy I was then, and I had a shot to get all my money back, 100% of my money, plus, I'd probably done the same thing.
Cool.
Because the analogy I've had to grow up and acknowledge is that if you took me a mile offshore in the ocean with Phelps, and people on the shore were making bets as to who is going to get to shore first, Michael Phelps or Brandon Dawson. It's so obvious what they'd pick.
Mm-hmm.
And what would happen is we'd jump in the water to race to shore. Michael Phelps would get there in no time with no energy. About halfway there, I would be almost drowning. And the bet would convert from who would get there first to if Brandon's going to actually survive. Now, I survive, so I feel like I won. I did it. I made it. I didn't frickin' die, even though I almost did 55 times, and I was ingesting water, and I was panicking, but I made it. So I won. But if you're watching me, you're like, I will always bet on Michael Phelps. And the fact he got to shore, we're so thrilled, but we're not going to double down on doing it again. So when you're in a moment where you're winning in your perception, but everyone around you can see you're a train wreck, right? You don't see what they see.
Right.
And that's where I think entrepreneurs, they don't understand that just because you think you're winning, to people with experience looking at what you're doing aren't saying it's only a matter of time. And that's where, when I had to acknowledge that that was the condition in which caused them to exit, I had to own that I was the one that was flailing around trying to survive. And yeah, I was proud of surviving. And there's a lot of exciting moments, but I could have died at any point, taking the company down, and they would have never got their money. And with their wisdom, they've seen it 1,000 times. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're pissed off about what other people have seen, or if you've worked with private equity and been disappointed with them, there's a high probability they see something and saw something originally that caused them to invest with you, which is very positive. But along the way, you've eroded their confidence either in your ability to succeed, lead, or execute and hit targets. And when that happens, with their experience, with the volume and velocity of stuff they're in, they know to cut bait. And that's exactly what happened with